Anheuser-Busch gets blasted after a new round of pandering advertisements. Target is under some new controversy in the case of the moving cocaine around the White House. All of that and more on today's episode of Speechless, The Daily Show. Hey, and welcome back to Speechless, everybody. I'm your host, Phares. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we get started with all of the interesting news content we have on it today, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. It's all around there so you can stay up to date. And when you subscribe, make sure you hit that notification bell and hit it to all, because we know that the wokies over at Google and ScrewTube are making sure that conservative voices don't get out there. I mean, there's literal court cases about it. So there's that. Also, leave me a comment. There's a chat right now for this premiere, but you can also leave me a comment and let me know, what are you thinking about everything we're talking about here today? Do you think that these Budweiser ads are pandering, or do you still drink Bud Light? Let me know why in the comments, and we're going to get right into that right now. So Budweiser and Anheuser-Busch entirely came out with some new ads throughout the 4th of July week, which are totally trying to recoup after their $30 billion loss after partnering with Dylan Mulvaney back in April. So we're going to go through these ads and we're going to break down just how much pandering they're doing. So let's start off with this one right here. This one features Travis Kelce, who's a football player, I believe, for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so they feature him. He was recently at the White House, and they feature him with a bunch of other dudes drinking beer. Here is that ad. That's Travis. Pretty simple, and that's obviously Bud Light trying to appeal to a manlier demographic. Remember when their marketing VP at one point had said, oh, no, we want to get rid of the fratty and country image of Bud Light. Remember when she said that? Well, obviously, Bud Light has no problem with that now, because they're featuring an NFL superstar in their Bud Light commercial, and a bunch of real biological men. I mean, Dylan Mulvaney's also a biological man, but a very different kind of biological man. So they're trying to get back into that dad and fratty atmosphere. And it's simply not working. People on Twitter were lambasting that video, simply saying it was too little too late and doesn't really do anything. Again, it's pandering. They are trying to pander to you as a more conservative, or even just simply a normal consumer, not necessarily part of the whole pride community and everything like that. But that wasn't even the one that got the majority of the criticism. This one, we'll even go through the comments section. This was what Budweiser decided to post on July 4th, getting a significant amount of flack due to the messaging that it was promoting. So let's take a look at this video right here. And we can see, you'll be able to see, just it almost seems disrespectful, but here is what it is.
After my second tour in Iraq as an F-16 pilot, I witnessed a family as their fallen soldier returned home. I felt a calling to help. Budweiser has believed in Folds of Honor for 13 years. Today, we honor our veterans and the 44,000 scholarships awarded to their families. That's enough to fill this stadium. Service never stops, and neither will we.
Look, here's the thing about that ad is, so it's not a bad ad. Like, it's not a bad ad. The problem is that because, once again, it's pandering. It's trying to pull at your heartstrings as somebody who cares about this country and the veterans who have served it. It's trying to pull your heartstrings so that you almost forget about what they did with Dylan Mulvaney and why you've been boycotting. Basically, they are standing on the dead bodies of veterans to try to push themselves back into their original consumer base. And it's simply not working. Many people see this as pandering. We can even go back into the Twitter sphere where that video was posted. And we can see people are basically saying a lot of the same things I just said. So why don't we take a look here at some of these comments and what people had to say on Twitter. So using dead soldiers to try to dig back from sponsoring child drag shows using shows and misogyny is beyond disgusting. No, you're not. This should have been a first choice, not Dylan. You're using this now to save face. There's plenty of others here within the replies in the comment section. They have, how's your ESG score? Somebody else posting all the Anheuser-Busch brands that they own. There is zero chance I will ever buy another Anheuser-Busch product as long as they keep sponsoring the sexual exploitation of children. And then it just goes on and on and on. They're getting absolutely blasted. And it's because it comes off as disrespectful. Once again, they are using, and they're trying to promote this relationship, and they're trying to say, look, we've supported veterans for 13 years. We've supported veterans for 13 years. We've done all this. You should still like us. But the thing is that you have supported veterans. You've supported causes that are traditionally considered to be somewhat more conservative, or at least causes that are more supported consistently by conservatives. But then went and had this whole LGBTQ support tirade throughout the last few months, starting with Dylan Mulvaney. And yes, they had been. It's true. Anheuser-Busch had been supportive of the LGBTQ community much before Dylan Mulvaney. That much is true, but it never hit they had never outspokenly voiced support for the transgender ideology, which many people, their main issue with it, me included, this is my main issue. I mean, I have other issues, but my main issue is the fact that it targets children significantly, and that people will not be happy until children are allowed to have hormone therapy and transitions and everything like that. And it's disgusting. And so Anheuser-Busch, you're pandering, we see it, and it's not helping. The boycott rages on. Speaking of places that are getting boycotts and coming after your children, Target. Target is in the news again. There's multiple reasons why Target is in the news. We're going to start this story out of the Daily Wire. 7 attorney generals sign a letter blasting Target for pushing a pride campaign onto children. Yes, obviously, we all heard about this pride campaign. I covered it here on my show before. But now we actually have government officials that are getting involved on the conversation. The letter that they sent, dated yesterday, focuses on Target's Pride Month display and its support for pro-transgender organizations. It was addressed to Brian Cornell, the chairman and CEO of Target Corporation, and was co-signed by a bunch of different attorney generals: the Missouri AG, Mississippi, Arkansas, Idaho, Kentucky, and South Carolina attorney generals. And they said, quote, as attorney generals committed to enforcing our state's child protection and parental rights laws and our state's economic interests as Target shareholders, we are concerned by the recent events involving the company's pride campaign. The letter begins. Letter goes on to say the officials are specifically concerned about the, quote, promotion and sale of potentially harmful products to minors, as well as potential interference with parental authority in the matters of sex and gender identity, and a, quote, possible violation of fiduciary duties by the company's directors and officers. It specifically highlights several products sold by Target during Pride Month. The AGs claim the company, quote, wittingly marketed and sold LGBTQIA plus promotional products to families and young children as part of a comprehensive effort to promote gender and sexual identity among children. The letter describes items that the attorney generals found particularly concerning, including a shirt that read homophobe headrest next to a picture of a guillotine, as well as one that read transphobe collector alongside a picture of a skull. The AGs also addressed Target's support of the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network, GLSEN, by saying, quote, GLSEN furnishes resources to activists for the purpose of undermining parents' constitutional and statutory rights by supporting, quote, secret gender transitions for kids. The letter charges Target's directors and officers may be negligent in undertaking the Pride campaign, which negatively affected Target's stock price. The letter states, before going on to note, it may be improperly directed company resources for collateral, political, or social goals unrelated to the company's and its shareholders' best interests. So we've been covering this story. I've been covering this story for Target for quite a while now. And I think it's amazing that we have government officials getting involved. And I think it's quite an interesting take to discuss the idea that one could violate their fiduciary duty. I think that's a legal step that is very interesting to be looking into. But also, I think it's great that they're talking about how Target is actively promoting stripping away parental rights in these kinds of issues, and also having just blatantly vulgar and disgusting shirts marketed to children and other merchandise. What will come of this letter? I'd say minimal. I'll be honest. I just think it's newsworthy to note that we do have government officials, attorney generals, that are standing up against Target's woke BS. However, there is another controversy Target is steeped in out of Fox News conservatives, Target, pun intended, after Mark Levin says his new book won't be allowed in stores. And so Mark Levin went on his radio show yesterday, and he had this to say regarding this whole thing. I think it's kind of funny because this is him speaking on his radio show. And here's exactly what he said about this incident. He also took to Twitter, and we can cover that tweet after this.
He says, Target already, Paul Bedard, just up at the Washington Examiner, suffering through poor sales linked to its all-in LGBTQ agenda during Pride Month, could suffer a second punch later this year for banning a new book from the New York Times best-selling media mogul, Mark Levin, because it might offend Democrats. Levin said today on the program, Target has informed my publisher, Simon & Schuster, it will not carry my new book when it is released on September 19. Claims that certain customers might be offended by the title. Imagine that. Levin tweeted before opening his show, nightly #1 radio show. Forthcoming book is titled The Democrat Party Hates America. Well, maybe somebody will write a book called The Democrat Party Loves America. Now, it'll be a fiction. Don't get me wrong. It'll be about 7 pages long. Excuse me.
It'll be a fiction, he says. It'll be a fiction. I love Mark Levin. I think he's hilarious. There is the picture of his book right there. You can see on screen. Definitely go pre-order it on Amazon. But apparently, yes, right now, conservatives are now looking to boycott Target for this reason, as well as they are coming as Target is claiming to not be having his book in stores anymore. On Twitter, Mark Levin had to say, Target has informed my publisher, Simon & Schuster, that it will not carry my book when it is released on September 19th, the conservative radio said on Twitter. It claims that certain customers might be offended by the title. Imagine that. So the corporatist left-wing censorship begins. And so people are saying on Twitter, Chip Roy being one of them, who is a Republican from Texas, said, another good reason not to shop at Target. Absolutely. Target reminding conservatives not to shop there in case tuck-friendly swimsuits and chest binders for Pride Month weren't enough. Yes, boycott Target, everybody, especially after this one. Interestingly, Target responded to Fox News Digital saying, quote, we've been offering this book for pre-sale since mid-June, as we have with Mark Levin's past books, many of which are currently available for sale at Target. We will offer his newest title for sale when it is available on September 19th. The use of the word hate in the title caused our team to reach out to the publisher, but as we stated, we are continuing to offer his book for pre-sale now, and it will be available for sale on its release date. We regret any confusion this has caused. Just breaking pretty much as I'm doing this show right now, because they updated the article as I had pulled it up, is that on Twitter, Mark Levin had to say, Target just informed my publisher that it is reversed course and will be taking my new book in its stores upon release. You folks are an immense force for free speech and market capitalism, and conservative authors and audiences everywhere will benefit from your patriotism. I could not be more proud of you, not only for how this specific case turned out, as there will undoubtedly be more of this, but because you've made it clear that you've had enough and will exercise your enormous power. And this is amazing, and this is the purpose of the boycotts that we've been doing, is for brands to understand that their consumer should always be right. Whatever happened to the customer is always right. We don't have that anymore. My manager here at my radio station even tells me the listener is always right. And look, he's not trying to say that to get me to change what I say or anything, but it's so that I take every single listener, whether if you text, call in, or put it in the chat, I take them seriously. And I really try to understand what they have to say, no matter how much they disagree with me. So I'll give an example, right? And then we'll get back to the story, but I want to give this example because I think it's important. But I got a text last Sunday, as I was about to do my radio show, and I produced the show before me on the radio. We have a texter who's a heckler that listens really consistently. And this heckler texted in and said, as soon as Kevin comes on, the radio goes off. So I respond to the text through our text line, and I say, why is that? Look, if I'm doing something wrong, I want to know. If I'm doing something that you really don't like, let's have a conversation about it. I'm pretty easy to have a conversation with if you ever actually want to talk to me. Well, this person responded and said, you're dishonest. I said, can you please explain how I'm dishonest? And then they try to bait me and change the subject a little bit, saying, well, what do you think about these Supreme Court decisions? I responded and I go, here's what just happened. You said that you didn't listen to me. I asked why. Then you said I was dishonest. I asked for you to explain how I'm dishonest. I'll tell you. when I do my show, my radio show, my YouTube show, what I do, and if anybody who consistently watches me, what you know is I pull up news articles, I pull up things that I think people are talking about, people want to hear about, things that you might not know about. And then I give my opinion on it. I am not a hard-hitting journalist. I host an opinion show on the radio and on YouTube. It is all my opinion. I'm not lying. These are all things I believe. And so how am I dishonest? And the heckler doesn't reply. Because here's the thing, is so getting back to like the customer, the listener is always right. Yes, we should listen. And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to listen, but I can't listen. I can't tell you you're right when you're not even giving me a solid opinion. But as it comes to conservatives and boycotting, here's the thing is there are people that are out there that disagree with me. I try to address them and say, the listener is always right. What do you have to say? Tell me what you have to say. If you don't really actually tell me of anything of substance, I can't even tell you you're right because you're not telling me anything. But the conservatives right now are telling businesses what they believe and what they want. And Target, fortunately, reversed course and said, okay, the customer is always right. Smart decision, but I'm still willing to bet, especially after targeting children and pushing the sexual exploitation of children, Target probably won't be getting many conservatives back there, maybe just to buy this book as in terms of spite. But they at least kind of said, okay, in some way the customer's right. Bud Light, which we talked about earlier, has never once done that. All many people were asking for a while was an apology. Bud Light never did that. All people really wanted was an apology. There was never an apology. And now they're just trying to pander with no real action behind it. So it's crazy. Getting into another story, though, moving off of that one, I also want to say real quick, when it comes to the title, so the title of Mark Levin's book, I'll pull it back up on screen right here. The title of Mark Levin's book, the Democrat Party Hates America. So that's what he says, is the Democrat Party hates America, and that would apparently offend, according to Target originally, that would offend some people seeing the word hate. Okay, people hate a lot of things. Little kids say, I hate broccoli. Really? Also, not to mention the fact that, as I even said yesterday, a recent Gallup poll showed that only 29% of Democrats consider themselves to be extremely proud to be Americans, compared to 60% of Republicans and 33% of independents. And while all of those numbers are relatively low and should be a lot higher, out of those three categories, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, which one is least proud to be Americans? Which one could you say hates America the most? Well, Democrats are at 29%. Logically speaking, Mark Levin's title is not only provocative and obviously controversial, it's also true, because oftentimes the truth is controversial. And so that's me wrapping up the Mark Levin story. Great to hear actually Target reverse course. Didn't know that was going to happen until after I even started the show. And I try to plan these shows out pretty well, everybody. I try to plan them out pretty well so that I'm bringing you the best and up-to-date content. And that's why even bringing it up right there, I was able to cover that for you. So I hope you'll forgive me on what I consider to be a little bit of a mistake in the fact that I didn't know that prior to recording, but happy I could bring that up for you guys. Now we need a cocaine update. Cocaine in the White House. Yes. It's apparently been moving on its own, or they never know where it was in the first place. Yes, out of the Daily Wire, cocaine in the White House was in a different location than previously reported, according to a report. Initial reports said that the cocaine was found in a reference lobby. I also heard at one point a library. Then officials claimed that it was found in the West Wing work area. The area where the cocaine was allegedly found is one floor below, this is a quote, one floor below the main West Wing offices and the same floor as the Situation Room and a dining area. Sources claimed to NBC News that the area where the cocaine was found was, quote, heavily trafficked. And now I was already surprised that we knew about the cocaine. I said this yesterday. I was already very surprised that we knew about the cocaine, that we knew it even happened. It seems like the kind of thing the government would try to cover up. I mean, the government always tries to cover things up. 40, 50 years ago, all right, well, back in the 1960s, the CIA almost definitively killed JFK. It is definitive. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is running for president today, admits that the CIA was behind his uncle's death. The government hides a lot. And basically, we know that to be true. We know the JFK assassination was performed by the government, or at least the government had a hand in it. We don't know the extent. And apparently we could be getting the documents. We've been supposed to be getting the documents for a long time, but it's disparaging. There's also rumors that the government was behind Martin Luther King's assassination. The government hides things from us all the time. I mean, back in the early 2000s, we found out from Edward Snowden how much information they collect on us, and it's staggering. And WikiLeaks released that, and now Edward Snowden is on trial for not on trial, but he is wanted by the United States for treason. Now, your feelings on Edward Snowden and the way he went about releasing that information can be your own personal feelings. However, he released factual information that the government was not sharing with the American public, the amount of data they collect on us, the amount of information they have a right. Well, not even a right. The information that they have on us. The government hides things from us. So, like I said, it very much surprises me that we know about this cocaine incident because it seems like the kind of thing the Biden White House would want to keep under wraps. But now, here's the thing, is already I was speculating on that. But the weird thing that is very fishy is that the White House can't even answer the question, where was the cocaine found? It's a simple, direct, one to few word answer. Where was the cocaine found? In a library? Heck, which room in the West Wing? Tell me. Somebody asked, where is Kevin right now? In the radio station, and I could even give the address. It's really simple. You should know where these things are. But now it was in a library. It's in this room of the West Wing. It's actually in this room of the West Wing. Where is it? Where is it? And now people, many, and even since the beginning of this whole stir up, are trying to speculate where or whose cocaine it is, which is a much more complicated question. I'm just trying to figure out, where was it? And that can't even be answered. But now people are asking whose it is. And it's pretty typical of the Biden White House that they can't answer any of these questions because, I mean, heck, asking Joe Biden where he is right now would be as complicated as asking where the cocaine was found. But people are trying to figure out whose cocaine this is. And Dan Bongino says most people should have a pretty good idea. And a lot of people like Dan are probably in the same boat. And like I said yesterday, it really could be a lot of people. I'm not making any definitive statements, but a lot of people have put suspect numero uno as Hunter Biden. And this is just one example of that. In this tweet from Dan Bongino, he said there is absolutely zero chance anyone other than a family member brought that cocaine inside the White House complex. No chance that would make it past the MAG security checkpoints. Family bypasses those. So he's basically saying it must have been Hunter or another member of the Biden family, and that's how it got there. And he's not the only one. Obviously, a lot of people are speculating that it's Hunter's, knowing his history with crack cocaine as a substance. It'd be very interesting because I've also heard, I mean, there's also talk that, well, he went to rehab. He's fine, whatever. Interestingly enough, bookies are getting in on the action. Yes, like betting. Out of Fox News overseas sports book, betonline.ag gives Hunter Biden plus 170 odds as the owner, placing him as the most likely wrongdoer among their listed suspects, which also appears to contain joke offenders peppered throughout the list. Kansas City's Chiefs tight end, Travis Kelce, who was featured in that Bud Light earlier, follows with plus 800 odds, while one of the Jonas brothers, literal quote, carries 1,000 odds, and Angelina Jolie garners plus 1,400 odds. President Biden and his wife, First Lady Jill Biden, sit at the bottom of the pack with plus 15,000 and plus 10,000 odds, respectively. So I think it's hilarious. Sports bettors are even getting in on the action, and not just sports bettors, just bettors in general. And Hunter Biden is the number one choice, which is absolutely hilarious. Trump also had a big speculation on Truth Social yesterday. He had this to say. I'm pulling it up right now, so you can take a look. Donald Trump off Truth Social says, does anybody really believe that the cocaine found in the West Wing of the White House, very close to the Oval Office, is for the use of anyone other than Hunter and Joe Biden? But watch, the fake news media will soon start saying that the amount found was, quote, very small. And it wasn't really cocaine, but rather common ground up aspirin. And the story will vanish. Has deranged Jack Smith, the crazy Trump-hating special prosecutor, been seen in the area of the cocaine? He looks like a crackhead to me. Typical Trump, coming out, doing a little bit of swipes there at some people. But a lot of people heavily believe that this is Hunter's. The timeline could add up. But who knows to be sure? Who absolutely knows to be sure? Another person got in on the action in talking about this story, and it's quite funny, actually, the response. Ron DeSantis, the other GOP frontrunner, had this to say on Tommy Lahren show. And so here is Ron DeSantis on Tommy Lahren show talking about this whole controversy. Hilarious, I might add.
Governor, it's so great to have you. I have so many things that I want to ask you, but I have to start out with some breaking news, and that is cocaine in the White House. You know, a headline we probably never thought we would see except under this administration. So when you saw that headline, what first came to mind for you?
Well, I've long believed, I think a lot of us have believed that the Biden administration's been blowing it on a lot of fronts, but I guess it's a little bit more literal than even I had thought. I can tell you in Florida, my wife and I, we have a 6'5" and a 3-year-old running around the governor's mansion. So that's not something that we see. We do have to occasionally get slime out of the carpet and get marker off the wallpaper, but that's the extent of our adventures at the governor's mansion.
Governor DeSantis really bringing a funny take on there, saying, I mean, we already knew the Biden White House was blowing. We didn't know it was this much, but there's not much to break down with this. Like, I'm trying to think about what else is to say. Part of me is a little surprised, but I got to be honest, like Tommy had to say, only from this administration, right? This administration, it makes sense. This administration, we can understand it. Only this administration, but I'm still begging the question, why do we know this in the first place? It seems like the kind of thing that would be covered up. And so I'm wondering who got a hold of this? Who really was able to let the story leak? Or what is it covering up? What's the bigger story that we don't know about? Because the government hides things from us, everybody. I mean, that's not a controversial statement. People on left, right, and center will tell you, and they know the government hides things from us. And so why is this? This seems like the kind of thing they would want to hide. A lot of questions to be asked, but a lot of answers that we will never receive. And that is typical of any government agency, but especially the Biden White House. In a final story for today, just one that I think is very interesting, out of the Daily Wire, country stars hold top spots on Billboard Hot 100 song chart for first time in decades. Country stars Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs hold the top 2 spots on Billboard's Hot 100 song charts, marking the first time in more than 42 years the artists from the country genre have simultaneously held number 1 and number 2 spots. This hasn't happened since Eddie Rabbitt's I Love a Rainy Night and Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 topped the list in the week of March 7th, 1981. Wallen's Last Night remained at the top of the charts for the 12th week in a row, with Combs' Fast Car coming in a close second after moving 1 spot. Wallen's Last Night has 72.2 million radio impressions and 29.8 million streams this week, with Combs' cover of Tracy Chapman's Fast Car landing 51.3 million radio impressions and 21.2 million streams. The singer recently, Morgan Wallen, posted in an Instagram story that, quote, "The doc cleared me to talk and sing. We back." The news came after he announced that in May, his upcoming shows were postponed for weeks to allow him time to heal from his damaged vocal cords. So here's the thing is Morgan Wallen, I actually just went to see him at Wrigley Field. It was his first show back about 2 weeks ago now. Amazing show. Really cool to go see him live. It was his first show back and it was great. And a lot of people criticize Morgan Wallen. Some people saying that he's too poppy and such. I really like both Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs. I think that they have a very interesting, I think they bring a different take on country music in the pop world. But I think it's interesting to talk about this because country music is known as highly likely the most patriotic genre, the most pro-America genre. It is a staple of the Western world, country music is. And I even know other conservative commentators, country isn't their thing. I love country music. I love old country music. I love some new country music, and I love a lot in the between. But the reason why I think this is important to talk about is for a few things. So first off, Morgan Wallen was steeped in controversy just about 2 years ago. First, when he was obviously denying COVID orders by partying and stuff. He was supposed to host SNL, and then he got canceled. Then he came back, and they kind of made a joke about his whole like not following COVID restrictions and all that kind of crap. He didn't care. He didn't care. Then he also got steeped in controversy when he was caught outside of his own home calling his buddy the N-word, which obviously not good to say that word. But I mean, he was drunk and he called it to a buddy. It wasn't used in an incredibly racist fashion. He wasn't targeting somebody that was of color and calling them the N-word. So he obviously got a lot of hate from lefties for that. But now he had the number 1 song on not just country music Billboard, but no, Billboard, which is pop music, like the popular stuff, not pop, but what is popular. Number one song. That is a conservative story, everybody. Surviving cancellation and being really the number one artist with his album currently, One Night at a Time, has the most streams. Maybe it's One Day at a Time, one of the two. Has the most purchases and streams of any album in 2023 so far. Then you have Luke Combs, who's just an amazingly wholesome figure that has a lot of phenomenal songs. And why is it that this is happening right now? And it's because it's for the same reason that a lot of people are criticizing modern country, saying, well, this isn't real country. Now, there are some artists that I would argue are still doing traditional, more outlaw real country, and that'd be like your Tyler Childers, your Cody Jinks, Hardy a little bit. But the other thing, too, is that country right now has become the most accepting genre. You have traditional rappers who will only do rap. You have pop stars who only do glitzy glam pop. Rock is taking a back seat, but everything is allowed into country. Everything is allowed into country. There's country rap that Morgan Wallen had a song with like Trippie Redd or some Lil Durk, and he has a rap song with him. There's country rock and roll. There's a guy named or country grunge, really. There's a guy named Co Wetzel. He does a lot of great music, and it's country vibe, but it also kind of gets into like a late 90s punk style. There's Brantley Gilbert, who is a rock star with a country feel. He's going on tour with Nickelback. I'm going to see them in a few weeks. Then you have Hardy, who I played his Wait in the Truck song. That was a great song. I've reacted to that one on my YouTube channel, but he also does like country metal in a lot of his new album, The Mockingbird and the Crow. So what other genre is doing that right now? Country is becoming, so you don't have to like the pop version of country. You don't have to like the rock or the rap version of country. I know I don't like a lot of the rap country. It's not my thing. But the reason why country is doing so well right now is because it's becoming the most accepting genre. And there are core themes, though. Here's the thing, is it's becoming the most accepting genre. They're willing to accept beats and some ideas musically from rap or from rock, from metal. But the core values in a lot of the songs stay the same. Independence, self-advocacy, monogamy, a family. One of Morgan Wallen's biggest songs recently was Thought You Should Know. It's literally basically a letter to his mom saying that he's doing well. The whole idea, and also just patriotism. Country still has a significant element of patriotism. Rural living, not urban living. Not pushing crime for the sake of crime. Yes, there is crime mentioned in songs, but not for the sake of it. Jesus and God is mentioned. Jelly Roll, who's more of a Christian, or not just Christian, but he's more of a rapper that does country. He has a song called Save Me. It doesn't have really any rap in it. And he also has Need a Favor, which both reference God. So country being popular right now shows an overall resurgence, along with a lot of other things I talk about on this show, an overall resurgence of a conservative mindset and getting away from a lot of the social crap that's being pushed by liberals and leftists throughout the media and entertainment and music. So that's all I have for you guys today, but I find it really interesting. Who's some country artists you guys listen to? Leave me some songs in the comments. I want to hear them, and I'll listen to them. I love music. I could talk about music. I could do a whole show just on music, but I don't have time for that today. And so thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow with another show. Might be a shorter one because I got some big plans this weekend, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. And there's going to be some videos coming up on the sides here. You can hit the subscribe button, which will be like right there. And then we got some videos right there. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be back next time with more Speechless, The Daily Show.